Tonight, after the biggest mafia roundup in FBI history, the bloody war against Canada's first family of crime.
They're hurting, and there's nothing that they can do about it. You just have to sit there and wait for the next horror.
The Rizzutos of Montreal could have been cast by Hollywood. Vito Rizzuto is the boss.
Best lawyer in the country over here.
He's the John Gotti of Montreal. He's a flashy guy, proud of his ability to beat the system.
With his father and son, he built an empire.
And as Canadians, we think, well, the Americans have got the best everything. You know, they got the best pizza, they got the best Italian criminals. But you know what? We got the best Italian criminals, and we got them in Montreal.
For the first time, with wiretaps and hidden cameras, we'll take you into the inner sanctum of the Canadian mob.
He wants his fucking money by 4 o'clock, or he says, I'm gonna go get him in his fucking house, I'm gonna crack it.
It's a story of money and murder, and a lot of both.
Killing is a way of life. Killed their son-in-laws, guys killed their brother-in-laws, guys killed their cousins.
The question on this edition of The Fifth Estate: who's killing the Rizzutos?
The higher you get in the mob, the bigger the bullseye circle becomes on your chest.
Hello, I'm Bob McEwen. Welcome to The Fifth Estate. It was in 1954 when a family named Rizzuto got off a boat from Italy and settled in Montreal. In the decades to come, they would rewrite the history of Canadian organized crime and make the Rizzutos a force to be feared in that most secret of societies, the mafia. Tonight, thanks to remarkable police surveillance techniques, we're going to lift the shroud that's protected the Rizzutos so you can see the reality of the criminal underworld as it hasn't been shown before, and hear their family story as it's never been told. We think it will make even the recent massive mob sweep in the U.S. pale by comparison. It is 5:45 p.m. on November 10th, 2010. In the upper middle class neighborhood of Cartierville in Montreal, the Rizzuto family is getting ready for dinner. And mafia boss Nick Rizzuto Sr. has let his guard down. Behind the house is a wooded area and someone with a high-powered rifle waiting for the aging Don to step in front of his window. What happens next will bring down Canada's most powerful crime family. As you're about to see, in its own murderous way, it's a Canadian success story.
We found bank accounts throughout the Cayman Islands. We found accounts in Mexico, in Eastern Europe. We found them in Cyprus. This organization was certainly churning tens of millions of dollars a year.
They pretty much had their hand into everything and anything that made money.
The family came to Canada from Sicily and from a long line of gangsters.
Heroin's their blood. In the heroin trade, the Rizzutos were the key. Whoever controlled Montreal controlled the heroin franchise into the United States.
In the 1980s, the dapper Vito Rizzuto took over that franchise and built it into a criminal enterprise worth billions.
And he certainly was, his father's son, a chip off the old block, and, rising to the top of the faction there in Montreal.
The Rizzutos lived on the same block in Montreal, alongside other members of their extended family. The police call the street Mafia Road.
At one time, it was pretty much every house was owned by somebody who was very wealthy, drug trafficking, mafiosi. And there was the Rizzutos, there were in-laws, and it was just this little street. It was all mafia.
We hear a lot of stuff about the mafia and tradition and family and but one thing we don't hear, business is business. Those guys, they're running a business. And if you interfere in their business, well, you're gonna die.
The ruthless rise of Vito Rizzuto is a little-known saga that begins in the Mecca of North American organized crime, New York City. The setting is the grand old Pierre Hotel on Fifth Avenue. The occasion, a wedding reception given by an Italian godfather. It's the social event of the year for the infamous Bonanno crime family.
They are a cult, and it's a culture that you're born into. It's a life that begins the day that you are born, and there is no way out. What matters is the cult and the culture of mafia, and that's where they live.
The Bonannos of New York have a branch plant in Canada, and some of their Canadian members are here tonight, including an ambitious young man, Vito Rizzuto. The Canadians are treated with respect. They're known as good earners for the family. The acting boss of the Bonannos is Joe Massino, renowned as a pathological killer. He's old school mafia. He likes to do things the traditional way.
To join the club, you have to agree to pick up a gun and go kill somebody if the leader of the family tells you to do so. And the Bonanno crime family, you know, is one of the most notorious at that game.
Vito Rizzuto and the others from Montreal are loyal to the Bonannos, and they're eager to show it. Their wish is about to come true. A few months after the wedding, Joe Massino decides to shake up his organization. He believes 3 of his captains are no longer loyal. He summons Vito Rizzuto and his Canadian crew to New York to help him clean house. They meet at a motel in Brooklyn, the boss in the dirty t-shirt and the shooters from Canada to plan the ambush.
And as far as Rizzuto was concerned, what was his rationale for doing it? What was in it for him?
Oh, this is an honor. I mean, if you're a gangster on the way up or looking to climb up, and your old man is the head of the faction there in Montreal, you're looking to, you know, impress. Once the idea was broached, there was no way that you were going to keep a guy like Vito Rizzuto away from that opportunity.
The ambush will take place at a social club frequented by the Bonannos. It's May 5th, 1981. Vito Rizzuto will pull the trigger.
If you're given a contract to kill somebody, you have to do it. You don't turn it down because it's part of being part of the family.
Joe Pistone was a soldier in the Bonanno crime family for 6 years.
Killing is a way of life. You know, guys kill their, kill their son-in-laws, guys kill their brother-in-laws, guys kill their cousins, and that's what it takes. You have to be totally ruthless and devoid of any feeling that you show for anybody.
This reenactment is from a PBS documentary about the Bonanno family, based on court records and eyewitness testimony. Vito Rizzuto is the man in the ski mask.
They put the rival faction at ease, leading them to believe that the meeting that they were going to attend was in fact just another meeting between rival captains in the family trying to work things out. Inside the closet, Vito Rizzuto is basically the guy with his eyes out. He bursts out first and bullets start flying. And the 3 captains end up dead.
The bodies were cut up and disposed of. The grisly triple homicide became mafia legend, a latter-day version of Al Capone's St. Valentine's Day Massacre. After the break, the highlight of Vito Rizzuto.
When people give you money not to do anything, does it get sweeter than that?
And one of the greatest law enforcement operations in history.
Well, the reason it's so difficult to infiltrate the American Mafia is because you have to have known somebody. Everybody knows somebody.
Early in the 1980s, Vito Rizzuto returned to Montreal after earning his stripes with the mob murders in New York. For the up-and-coming CEO of Canada's most successful criminal organization, business was good.
In 1981, he was already a significant criminal by virtue of his blood and his birth. But now he's a man who can get the work done. He drives some very, very nice cars. Very little in his own name. Businessman in Toronto wants to lend him a car to use. People want to do nice things for Vito Rizzuto. Not because he will do something bad to them if they don't, but because they think he might do something bad to them if they don't. It's a mythic, perfect criminal organization. When people give you money not to do anything, does it get sweeter than that?
Best lawyer in the country over here.
Like the notorious New York mob boss John Gotti, Vito Rizzuto had swagger. He showed up at the fights in Montreal with his entourage. He liked to see and be seen.
The whole thing, it's money and power. They get the best service. They get the best seat. Everybody's falling all over. There's the respect, and that's also power.
And Vito Rizzuto had power to burn, from sports betting to loan sharking and drug dealing. There were few rackets in Montreal where Rizzuto didn't get his cut.
He always gonna have 2-3 bodyguards with him. He always have nice women around him. One of them was his mistress. What a beautiful lady she was. And I would say like kind of Marilyn Monroe. So my job was to go around with her and bring her, let's say, to the bar, bring her to a restaurant, drive her someplace. That's it. As long as nobody is gonna touch her, and she could look at other men and stuff like that. Like she was young. I would say she was 25, 26. Gorgeous, gorgeous. What a fucking babe she was. And it's normal that everybody's gonna look. And she knew, too, that she was the property of Vito.
Rival gangs apparently had a hands-off policy, too. For over a quarter of a century, no one dared to take on Vito Rizzuto.
He's the John Gotti of Montreal. He's a flashy guy, proud of his ability to beat the system, and, you know, someone who doesn't run away from the status that he achieved by being a gangster.
But author Lee Lamothe says Vito Rizzuto's criminal footprint was far greater than Gotti's.
John Gotti was a powerful, thuggish criminal in a borough of New York with influence in the other boroughs. Vito Rizzuto could get on an airplane and fly to the Emirates and be accepted. As Canadians, we think, well, the Americans have got the best everything. You know, they got the best pizza, they got the best Italian criminals. But you know what? We got the best Italian criminals, and we got them in Montreal.
Vito Rizzuto, he see things coming. He's got lots of power in Quebec. And politics, cops, judge, he's got power everywhere. The paradise for any crook around the world, it's Quebec. You can buy everything. Tell me the price, you're gonna get it. And that's including minister, law, justice, anything.
Under Vito's leadership, everybody makes a lot of money during 30 years in Montreal. Vito said, it's better for all of us to make money than to kill each other.
For decades, good management and good luck kept the Rizzutos on top in a cutthroat business.
In the world of organized crime, you never know from one day to the next who your friends are and who's going to be out there with a gun and putting two behind your ear. The higher you get in the mob, the bigger the bullseye circle becomes on your chest.
You might forgive Vito Rizzuto for a little overconfidence. 25 years had passed since the triple murder in New York that cemented his reputation and career. He was Canada's Teflon Don, apparently even to the authorities. In 25 years, the best the Canadians could do was to get Rizzuto to settle a minor tax case. But south of the border, it was a different story. And it started with one of the greatest law enforcement operations ever. In the mid-1970s, the FBI managed to insert one of its own agents inside the Bonanno crime family. Someone who gained the trust of some of the most cunning and homicidal men in America, something never done before or since.
Well, the reason it's so difficult to infiltrate the American Mafia is because you have to have known somebody. Everybody knows somebody. You know, everybody has a cousin, everybody has a friend. You have to have grown up in one of the neighborhoods. You have to have somebody, as they say, vouch for you.
Our Mafia expert Joe Pistone should know. He was the FBI agent who spent 6 perilous years as a Bonanno soldier. That's him on the right in his undercover identity. Pistone's story was told in a movie by 20th Century Fox. The title was his mob name, Donnie Brasco.
Okay, when I introduce you, I'm gonna say, this is a friend of mine. That means you're a connected guy. Now, if I said instead, this is a friend of ours, that would mean you were a made guy. A capiche?
Yeah, friend of mine, friend of ours.
Yeah.
What do I call you, friend of ours? Or...
Keep your fucking mouth shut about me. Don't say, hey, Don.
Johnny Depp plays the title role of Donnie Brasco. Al Pacino is his Mafia mentor.
Some things I gotta take.
Yeah. What do you want, 100?
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wise guy don't carry his money in a wallet. Hey, wise guy carries money in a roll, like this. See? Bina on the outside. Like that, come on.
What Pistone did and the way he was able to do it for so many years is certainly, you know, it was huge, and it was an incredible event, a credible undertaking by him.
And the repercussions of that landmark FBI operation are felt in gangland to this day. Though the mob put a price on Pistone's head, he survived to testify in more than 100 criminal trials. Bit by bit, the Mafia's code of silence crumbled, and the dominoes started to fall. They led all the way to the man who ordered Vito Rizzuto to pull the trigger at that social club in 1981, the then Don of the Bonanno crime family, Joe Massino.
Well, I always said there's no honor amongst thieves, and that proves it out there.
Found guilty of murder, incredibly, even Massino, the one-time boss of bosses, began to talk.
You know, here he gets convicted. He's facing a death penalty, facing a loss of $10 million or so in a civil suit, and the first thing he does is he goes to the authorities and says, I'll do A, B, and C, you know, if you cut me a break, cut me the death penalty.
Massino fingered Vito Rizzuto as the trigger man in the 1981 killings. The Americans charged him with conspiracy to commit murder. After fighting extradition for 2 years, he was driven from prison to Montreal's Trudeau Airport. Waiting on the tarmac were an executive jet and FBI agents. Before long, he would be in a U.S. federal penitentiary, sentenced to 10 years. But before he left, Vito Rizzuto had a prediction.
He turned to the cop and he goes, you know, this is a big mistake. This place isn't going to be the same when I'm gone. So there's no glue left holding the family together.
When we come back, the extraordinary tale of the tapes.
There's no fucking money. There's no money if they don't give me time to finish this off.
And what happens when the mob calls you?
I want my fucking money. Today, Lorenzo says he's gonna grab you, he's gonna fucking turn you into a pretzel.
It was 2006, and the Don was gone. Vito Rizzuto had been extradited to the U.S. and sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in the mob murders 25 years before. It was especially bad news at this coffee shop in Montreal's North End. For decades, the Consensus Social Club had been Rizzuto World Headquarters. But for the family, things were about to get even worse. because the task force investigating organized crime in Montreal, called Project Colisée, had discovered a way to get inside the Cosenza.
The policemen were very surprised because they discovered that during the night there was nobody were inside the Cosenza club as a security man. You know, the security man was leaving in the middle of the night, and somebody else arrived a few hours later.
In other words, a few hours in which it was possible to access the club and install state-of-the-art microphones and video cameras in the ceiling. It was a joint operation by the RCMP, Montreal, and Quebec provincial police forces, known as the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit. One morning in June 2003, they turned on the microphones and cameras at the Cosenza Social Club and began to listen and watch. For more than 3 years, before and after the extradition of Vito Rizzuto, police would eavesdrop on 1.2 million conversations.
There's no fucking money. There's no money if they don't give me time to finish this off.
What emerged was an unprecedented inside view of Canada's most powerful and profitable criminal family.
And they thought that they were protected within it. It was their bolt hole. It was their home hearth for business. And everything you needed to know about that family was on those tapes.
For example?
Well, how much money came in, where the money came from, who the money went to, how the money got out, who's going to get a slap in the head, who's going to get a slap in the back, you know, shot or just beaten.
At the Cosenza, there are two main areas. The outer coffee bar, where family members and visitors socialize and talk, and the back room, where the real business is done. Here, the main man is Vito's father, Nick Sr.
Nick Rizzuto was seen at Café Cosenza almost every day for 4 years. He was there hanging around, discussing with people, playing cards with others.
With Vito in prison, the tapes show the 82-year-old patriarch acting as boss of the family.
He settled conflicts that occurred in the bookmaking activities of the organization, and he received there at the Cosenza his share of the money that was given in the small office at the Café Cosenza.
On a typical morning, Nick Rizzuto Sr. received a succession of visitors bearing cash, paying tribute, they called it.
Each captain has to give a percentage, whatever the boss determines every week, to the family kitty. And the thing is that all the money goes up. So, you know, the boss has coming into his chest, you know, every month, millions and millions, because he gets a cut of everything.
When he gets his cut, Nick Rizzuto's first question is, how much? And he always counts the cash twice, taking 2 bundles, one for himself, one for his absent son Vito, both put into his sock.
It was at times hilarious. I mean, Nick, the video of Nick stuffing money into his sock, this old bald man pulling up his pants, Nick trying to count what bills he's got and trying to make sure nobody else got more than him. I'll take this for my son, I'll take this for my grand. You know, it was like, sometimes there were 6 guys in the room and there were 45 hands, and they're all just grabbing on this money.
So if you have, you know, 15 capos that are giving you $10,000 a month, and then you're getting a piece of the action from every illegal activity, that's a lot of money going into that boss's treasure chest. The money's mind-boggling. It's just millions and millions of dollars a year.
And the scope of the illegality directed from the Cosenza's back room was breathtaking, too.
They were involved in a variety of criminal activities, ranging from importation of cocaine through the airport of Montreal, importation of cocaine using containers, bookmaking, gambling, extortion, possession of proceeds of crime, gangsterism, wide variety of criminal activities.
For example, the wiretaps revealed something astounding at Montreal's Trudeau Airport. the Rizzutos had a dozen people there on their payroll, from baggage handlers to customs agents. Police cameras caught couriers arriving at the airport for a Caribbean cocaine run and recorded their financial arrangements.
Okay, about the money. Let me tell you about the money. Okay, you gave me $120,000. Something like that. Remember?
It's amazing, and I'd say it's troubling to see that an organization has infiltrated the international airport of Montreal. It's troubling.
The woman on this surveillance tape is a customs officer. A court found she was supplying pre-stamped customs declaration forms to help drug couriers, like this man, avoid being searched upon their return to Canada.
I have the paper already. I stamped it myself, and he gave me the code, the green light code. Yeah, this time it's in the work. This is fucking easy, man.
However easy the Rizzutos made it look, the surveillance tapes revealed that a lot of their work is done by telephone. When you listen to the recordings, remember, they're not actors reading a script. They're real-life professional gangsters relying on a well-honed, time-honored technique, intimidation.
Bro, you gotta give me money today.
Today?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Let me talk to you. Where are you? Can I see you?
The unlucky recipient of this call owes a gambling debt of $112,000.
I'm not waiting after today. After today, my partner said he's gonna come and he's gonna break every limb in your body. I want $112,000 today.
Come on. Okay? You serious, bro?
We're gonna come and get you in your fucking house. I don't give a fuck. I want 112 G's today, or bro, where we catch you, we're gonna leave you.
The Rizzuto's chief enforcer is Frank Del Balso.
I want my fucking money today. Lorenzo says he's gonna grab you, he's gonna fucking turn you into a pretzel. And don't fuck with him, bro.
I don't want to fuck with nobody, man.
Listen to me. Go get 112 dimes, and you save yourself a fucking beating of your life.
Offers hard to refuse aren't only for deadbeat gamblers. An overdue notice from a Rizzuto-connected company brings a customer service call like this.
Yeah, you know when you're going to pay the bill?
Who are you?
Eh?
Who are you?
The guy that's going to make you eat out of a straw for 6 months if you don't go pay him.
I beg your pardon?
You hear me? I know you have me on tape. Don't worry about it. Just go pay the bill, okay? And I'm not going to come and tell you again. The next time I break your head.
Even seemingly legitimate transactions could take a thuggish turn. The Rizzutos invested $5 million with a firm called Norshield on an upper floor at Place Ville-Marie. The fund went broke, but the family wanted its money back, no matter what. The CEO of Norshield, John Kazantzidakis, was beaten bloody by 3 Rizzuto enforcers who bragged about it later by phone.
I'm smarter than him. I'm not fucking stupid.
Yeah, good 10, 12 stitches, eh? What did he hit him with, man?
Well, it's finished.
Fuck. He's fucking bleeding all kinds. The boardroom fucking floor over there.
Yeah, did he come in, though?
Not yet, no. He can't leave the boardroom because there's the girls there. They don't want him to see them. So he's got to wait till 5 o'clock to head for the hospital.
With those powers of persuasion, it's not surprising the Rizzutos have usually got their way, not only from international drug deals and big-time gambling, but also more modest sources. Local restaurant owners were threatened if they didn't use a specific brand of coffee the family distributed. Police say several hundred businesses, from hotels and pizzerias to grocery stores and car dealerships, paid protection money to the Rizzutos, starting at about $100 a month. After 4 years of investigation, 3 of them with recording devices the Rizzutos somehow never found, Project Colisée had more than enough. November 22nd, 2006. In and around Montreal, hundreds of police officers descended on members of the Rizzuto family and their associates. Vito Rizzuto was incarcerated in the U.S., but his father was among the 91 arrested. Most would be convicted, including Nick Rizzuto Sr.
This has never been done before in North America. This is the removal, laterally, of an entire, not only an entire generation of organized criminals, because there's other mafias that work in this. It also took out the infrastructure. It took out the leadership.
When we return, the next Rizzuto.
Oh, he was a gangster. There's no doubt. No doubt in my mind. Filling into the father's shoes.
And will he pay for the family's crimes?
Bodies being left in the street. I mean, young Nick, just no, nothing.
By 2007, the Rizzuto family was unquestionably on the ropes, decimated by the arrests of Project Colisée, the two Dons, father and son, both behind bars. Still, there was no question the job of boss would stay in the family.
They are a cult. You don't get a choice. I mean, it's a tragedy, because I've met the children of some of these people, and they had no choice. It was like being born with a hair lip. You're born into the mafia, and they can't do nothing about it.
In Montreal, Vito's son, 38-year-old Nick Rizzuto Jr., was the chosen family member, the Don in waiting.
I mean, Nick, tough guy, basically following his father's footsteps, and he'd be the guy. You know, he's the one. He didn't get educated, was on the streets right away, quite early, was a fairly violent man, and that's who it went to.
Oh, he was a gangster. There's no doubt. No doubt in my mind. Filling into the father's shoes.
Paul Sauvé first encountered the Rizzutos in the Montreal construction business. His company had been awarded a $10 million contract for roofing work at Montreal City Hall. Then he got the phone call.
And my cell phone rang, and it was Nick Rizzuto.
It was Nick Rizzuto Jr., and he soon got to the point. He said Sauvé owed him a 5% commission on the contract. $500,000.
It's almost like a movie. It's almost like a scene from Goodfellas. It's the same. It is exactly that.
In fact, according to the RCMP, the so-called 5% tax on huge construction projects may be worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the Montreal mob.
It's the same in Italy, it's the same in Montreal, the same way, you know, it's the same way. We are in charge. If you want a contract, you have to pay, you know, you have to pay the royalties to us, because we are in contract.
But there was a catch. Paul Sauvé wouldn't pay. The question was, what would the Rizzutos do about it?
Now I'm a criminal organization because I can beat you. I can threaten your wife. I can burn your trucks. I can burn down a building under construction. That's fairly straightforward.
Indeed, shortly after Sauvé refused the Rizzuto's offer, one of his construction cranes, worth $500,000, mysteriously went up in flames. Then his cell phone rang again. It was Nick Jr.
He says, I'm with Tony, I'm in the parking, and you're going to have to settle up, or you're going to have to pay up, something along those lines.
Sauvé says once more he refused. He never heard from Nick Rizzuto Jr. again.
If you lay low, they're just going to keep coming. You have to confront it. There's no choice. If you stay there and, you know, in fear, you're going to get squashed. There's no question. That's how these people operate.
Not long afterwards, in December 2009, the Don-to-be was shot 6 times and killed outside a Montreal building. At Nick Jr.'s funeral, the old Don, Nick Sr., now out of prison, was front and center. With his grandson dead and his son still behind bars, at 85, he was back in charge of the family.
The thinkers are all in jail. They're all arrested. Vito's out, so no strong figurehead. The old guy's old. I mean, you know, he's still a bit of a doddering guy, still a master criminal, but there's a family who lost a lot of members to Nick Rizzuto. Nick Rizzuto killed an awful lot of people.
Nick Sr.'s past was coming back to haunt him with a vengeance. When the Rizzutos consolidated power in Montreal in the 1970s, they gained the upper hand by ruthlessly killing members of rival families, with names like Catrone and Violi. The survivors of that bloodbath apparently have long memories of what happened 30 years ago.
One of the Violi brothers, I think it was Rocco, was at home sitting at his kitchen table, and his family was with him in the kitchen. And a sniper shot him right through the head. Shot him dead in front of his family.
Retribution, simmering for decades, was now boiling over. Vito's son and successor, murdered. A family associate, gunned down. His brother-in-law, kidnapped and presumed dead. His underboss, shot to death. And it's not only violence against the Rizzutos. An epidemic of firebombing and arson has also sent a message to those who do business with the family.
It's some clans try to expand their territory. Some clans want to impose their power in those places. They say, hey, the Sicilian, it's finished, it's our turn.
It's a power struggle. It's basically what it, you know, it's the whole thing. It's money and power.
Mob infiltrator Joe Pistone brought down the Bonanno crime family. He says mafia power struggles are like corporate takeovers with automatic weapons.
You have to get your executives in line, and you know whoever lines up the most powerful executives is going to win. Only in this case, the way you win is you kill the guys. You know, you don't buy them out, you kill them.
But for now, Vito Rizzuto is powerless to respond, in prison in Colorado for 2 more years, while his family hunkers down in Montreal.
They're hurting, and there's nothing that they can do about it. There's nowhere they can go. They can't go to the cops. They can't go back to Italy. They just have to sit there and wait for the next horror.
Yeah.
But I think his pain must just be horrible sitting in that cell, and he can't do anything.
After 30 years in power, Rizzuto soldiers now appear outgunned and outmaneuvered. And that doesn't seem likely to change 2 years from now, when their boss's sentence is up.
Personally, I don't think Vito will try to take over the power again in Montreal, because he will be 67, you know, and he knows that the message is clear. We don't want any Rizzutos on power for the next. It's our time, you know. Finished. The Rizzuto clan, it's finished in Montreal for sure.
I'm still impressed for the mystery around that man, but I think now he's gone. The Rizzuto reign is past now. Now it's somebody else gonna run the show. Who? I don't know. It's been too long that I'm not no more in that business. But they'll find someone.
For now, whoever knows who's behind the takeover isn't saying. Police sources believe the murders and bombings could involve various crime groups, perhaps the Bonannos from New York, even mutinous younger members of the Rizzuto organization, and most likely rival mafia families in Ontario and Quebec. Which brings us back to Mafia Row in Montreal on that evening in November. And the single shot from a high-powered rifle that killed Nick Rizzuto Sr. in front of his wife and daughter. Echoing and ending his own murderous career.
Yeah, you don't deny his house with his family, so how does old Nick go? Nick, who ordered that? Nick's in his house with his family. Sniper through the window. And he's down. In that case, that's so obvious. There's absolutely no question. I'm not saying you have to have respect, but there is a way of doing things. If you're a real Sicilian mafia man, somebody's got to kill you. They got to kill you. You know, you can't just die like some guy with tubes up your nose. You got to have enemies so strong, you've got to be so strong yourself that your enemies, they got to whack you.
The Rizzuto clan, it's finished in Montreal for sure. But I think, just for the honor, he will revenge one day the killing of his son and of his father.
But revenge would seem to be the least of Vito Rizzuto's problems. In his ancestral home of Italy, the government has seized $400 million of Rizzuto property in cash and issued an extradition order for him. So for Canada's boss of bosses, who always got his cut and made others pay, after years in prison, losing his father, his son, and much of his family business, unbelievably, the future could be even worse.
He comes back to Montreal, he'll just be waiting to be killed. Italy wants to put him in jail. The safest place for him right now is where he is. Jails in Italy are notorious. Prisons, he'll get killed in prison over there. Now we're going to see what the man's made of. No dad, no son. He's alone. First time in his life. First time in his life.
Though there have been arrests in Montreal and some of the fire bombings and arson, as with the majority of mob-on-mob murders, there have been no charges in any of the killings of Rizzuto family members and associates. We will follow developments on both sides of the border, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Fifth Estate. For every story we do on the program, you can find out a lot more about it on our website. Just go to cbc.ca/fifth. Up next, a sneak preview of some stories the Fifth Estate is working on right now.
Light them all up. Come on, fire! Hey, Roger.
It was shot in 2007 in a neighborhood of eastern Baghdad, but the video has only come to light now.
It was a real-life massacre that sparked a war in cyberspace. I'm Lyndon McIntyre with a rare portrait of the man who started it, Julian Assange, champion of truth.
Iraq, as we can see, was a bloodbath on every corner.
Or an agent of global anarchy.
Julian Assange is a cyber terrorist in wartime.
He is an active enemy combatant.
We got special ops forces. A dead man can't leak stuff.
Mr. Assange?
The backlash.
Sweden issued an arrest warrant against Julian Assange in connection to a rape investigation.
And the fallout.
The way he dealt with it was one of the reasons that I left.
Inside the world of WikiLeaks with unprecedented access. Wiki Rebels next week on the Fifth Estate.
Coming soon on the Fifth Estate.
I heard the gasp, and I heard the impact when he hit the pole.
It's a moment few Canadians will ever forget.
We are heartbroken beyond words.
It was ruled driver error.
We're totally convinced that the signing centre is very, very safe.
Now, questions about the official version.
The track was too fast. No one wants to accept blame for this.
An athlete can make a mistake, but it shouldn't cost him his life.
You're shooting that film for CBC.
It's a story some don't want you to hear.
Get out.
That's Death at the Olympics, coming soon on the Fifth Estate. And another way to find out what's going on at the Fifth Estate these days, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And that's our program for this week. I'm Bob McEwen. For everyone at the Fifth Estate, thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.
The fastest, the best sniper, the hardest shot, the fanciest moves. The NHL puts their talent to the test. NHL All-Star Super Skills. Saturday at 6:30 Eastern on CBC.
Detective Poirot may look like he's resting, but while sitting here, he's pondered the meaning of life, considered changing his mustache style, and solved a murder. Find out who done it. Agatha Christie's Cat Among the Pigeons. Sunday at 8 on CBC.
Monday, the kitchen heats up.
Good morning, Dad. Breakfast is served.
Dig in.
Imagine if your mother took over your terrain.
We're gonna go with Tom's mom.
All right. An all-new 18 to Life. Monday at 8:30 on CBC.
CBC News The National starts now.